This week, for lots of kids across the United States, school will start a little bit different this week. For many children across the United States, online education is knocking at their door. And so many parents out there are really afraid, as are schools and teachers, about what this is going to mean for kids with disabilities. I just want to make sure that parents realize that online education is not mandated. There is no rule, no law, no policy that requires you to have to engage your child in online education. And in fact, for many children with disabilities, online education would be practically impossible. Especially for kids who are so used to having technology to look at YouTube or for fun type of activities as their reward, their reinforcers, and to now expect them to sit in front of a computer, maybe see their teacher on the screen, but maybe not, maybe just have assignments given to them through an online portal is really not going to be in their best interest, is not going to help them learn. For many of these kids, they don't do that when they're in a classroom, and expecting them to do it at home, where home is home, and it is typically not a place for intensive instruction, is really not very practical. Everybody by now should have heard from their teachers. So if you guys have been out of school for a week, 2 weeks, you should have heard something from your teachers. So hopefully you have, as well as your therapist. If you have a speech therapist, occupational therapist, a physical therapist, a counselor, I'm hoping that you guys have heard from them by now and that they're helping you, working with you to create a way to provide the services that are outlined on your child's IEP. I just wanted to read a statement from the Department of Education in Washington as far as IDEA goes, because I think it's really important that you guys understand what it says, because I think a lot of school districts are still trying to figure out what they're going to do with students with complex needs. But it's in a statement that they made, it says, if an LEA, so that's a local education agency, so that's your school, continues to provide educational opportunities to the general student population during a school closure, the school must ensure the students with disabilities also have equal access to the same opportunities, including, this is the important part, including the provision of FAPE, the free and appropriate public education. It goes on to say that they must ensure that to the greatest extent possible, each student with a disability can be provided the special education and related services identified in the student's IEP developed under IDEA. So I want you to know that it's certainly going to be tricky to figure out how they're going to provide services. I know a lot of therapists are talking about teletherapy, and for some kids, again, that's going to be more effective than others. But I just wanted you to realize that you do have protections, and never have I ever seen a time when it's going to be more important for you as the parent community to understand your rights. Before you start working with your child at home, again, know that you don't have to sit in front of a computer. There are tons of other ways. And in fact, there's so many things. If you follow any social media, there is so many free applications, free resources online that frankly, it could be very daunting and kind of frustrating because there's so much. I work with a lot of families who actually are feeling very overwhelmed, not so much by having their children at home, but by the vast volume of information that is online that they kind of have to sit and they feel like they have to sift through to figure out what they're going to use, what they're going to do. And sometimes you just, that KISS principle, keep it simple. You're not expected to run a 6-hour at-home program, school program, like they do when they're at school. The one thing that you want to do really before you even get started on teaching your kids at home is to get some what we call baseline levels. So you want to sit with your child and kind of go over their reading abilities, their writing, their math, so that you could get a feel for what they can do and document. The key word in all of this while we're out of school is document. And for many parents, they've never documented what their child does or doesn't do. So it could be a little tricky. But if you just do a very simple Google search for service logs, data on goals, you will find all kinds of things out there that can help you during this time. But you want to document. You want to document where your child is right now. You need to read your child's IEP. You need to look at the goals that are in there. I encourage you to create like a spreadsheet, and on the left-hand side, have your child's IEP goals. And then you could put the date, like each day. So tomorrow's date, for example, you're going to put tomorrow's date. You're going to pick which goal. Pick one goal, pick 5 goals, anywhere in between or more, anything that you think is reasonable to work with your child per day. And document how your child does when you implement that goal with them. When you're working, say, on their sight words, how many sight words did they recognize today? How many did they recognize tomorrow? Set them up in very simple formats. Now, if your child is participating in online education, whether you think it's effective or you don't, I encourage you to write down the day that it was provided, document what it looks like, if it was effective. Did your child seem to learn in that format? Because on the other side of this, the best thing for you to have as you go back into the physical school and really determine where your child's at, did they make progress, did they not? You want to make sure that you have good data. Work samples. Save work samples. If you're sitting at the dining room table with your child and you're doing worksheets, save them. You want to be able to have evidence of the work that you did with your child, because I really feel that if you guys invest even just an hour a day in sitting and working with your child, forget about the computer. If you just sit with them and you work with them an hour a day on reading, writing, or math, I actually think that you're going to see some really nice progress. And, you know, schools are pretty infamous for being able to, you know, when a child makes good progress, to be able to pat themselves on the back and say, look at what we did. This was really great. And now the kids are home with you guys. And you want to document just how hard you worked and what the benefit on the other side was. And also, on the flip side of that, you will show that your child just doesn't learn that way. So if you have that kid who's just not able to make progress in this new format, you're not a teacher, you're a parent, you don't understand how to teach, online learning is not going to work. You want to document what happened, so what it looks like in the meantime, so that when you go back to school, you could say, my child missed out on all this appropriate education because he or she was home and I'm not a special educator. So you want to be able to show that. So document, document, document. If your annual IEP is due before we go back to school, you're going to have an IEP meeting. And I would anticipate within this coming week and then thereafter, schools will get back on board with doing the IEPs. Now, you're going to be, of course, participating in your IEPs from home. The school will set up a system to where everybody will come together online, and different school systems will use different platforms to do that. The one thing that I caution you on, and it hasn't happened yet because we haven't started them yet, is that perhaps a school would attempt to reduce services or reduce the type or number of goals on your child's IEP and saying, well, we're not in school. I would highly recommend that you do not do that. The services that are on your child's IEP are on there because there was data to support the services at the last time that you all came together. Yes, certainly your child could have made a massive amount of progress in the last year and perhaps they don't need that service anymore. That could happen. If it does happen, then you want to see the data to support that. Okay, just don't make those decisions just because we're out of school. And you want to hold on to services right now, because if your child does not make progress and you come out of this on the other side with a significant number of missed services, both direct services, consultative services, specialized therapies, whatever it might be, you do have the right to what's called compensatory services. Compensatory educational services are the services that a school system needs to make up because they've been missed, or that they were provided but yet they were inadequate and they did not meet the needs of your child. So you can simply say, we're going to hold on to these right now because we really were in such a holding pattern, and after we get back into school we can kind of see if he or she continues to need the services, and if they don't, then we can have that discussion. But for right now, no, I'm just not comfortable reducing anything on the IEP. Be sure that if you have an IEP coming up, to request a draft of the IEP before you come together in that online platform. I think there's a ton of value in being able to sit home on the couch, kids are in bed at night, and you could just sit and read it and really study it. And now that you're working with your child, you should have some more information about what your kid can do or cannot do. So read it very carefully, sit down, write up like a little synopsis of some recommendations that you have and some of the things that you might be seeing that your child needs to work on, or things that you don't think your child needs to work on because you're seeing that they have mastered something that the teacher had reported prior that they didn't have mastered in a classroom. It would not be uncommon for a child that's sitting at home with a parent who's working, getting that one-on-one on, say, letter recognition. If you're sitting with your child every day for 30 minutes and you're working on letter identification, there's no distractions in the area. Maybe there's not another child at home, or the other child at home is engaged in their own online class, and it's just quiet, and it's you and your child, and you're running through these letters and the letter sounds. It would not be uncommon for your child to master that, where previously maybe in a classroom that has 10 children, 2 adults, kids making noise, 10 different kids, 10 different learning styles, everybody's on a different level. The one-on-one environment that you could provide in the home may be much more conducive to learning. So I wouldn't be surprised if you actually see your kid make some really amazing progress. One more thing. If your child has the use of assistive technology, especially as a communication device, and that communication device is at the school building and not home with you, please call the school. Let them know that you need to get the device, and you and the school can figure out a time and how to do that. On your IEP, on the special considerations page, there is a section for assistive technology. Read that section. That should outline pretty clearly the assistive technology tools that the teacher has to implement in the classroom in order to benefit your child. So read it, request those items, have that communication device at home with you, and use it. So you want to document where they are now, document the activities that you do. Keep a service log of the services that are on your child's IEP that you're getting or you're not getting through this new form of schooling. Be sure to document what it looks like, if it's effective, and watch those IEPs and make sure that you maintain the services on the IEPs at least until we're back in the swing of things. So you guys take care and good luck.